Well, welcome to Tuesday Rare Leader Community. Thank you for joining us for another Rare Leader conversation. And this month, as we talk about the topic of confidence, reclaiming it, reigniting it, supercharging it, especially as we go into the next half of the year. I'm Tony Jalen. I'm joined by the beautiful Danielle Jalen. Hello, Danielle.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So, this is the second week as we continue the conversation around the topic of confidence. We're exploring 6 different questions um, that will help you reignite, reclaim, and recharge your confidence. And today, we're going to go ahead and dive into um, finding out the warning signs of how you may have lost confidence or losing confidence. Get in front of it. So, Danielle, for those of you guys who are watching live, by the way, too, feel free to comment and add your 2 cents there in the comments, likes, all the kind of good stuff. If you know someone you'd like to invite to the group, please make sure to invite them because I jumped around for a second there. The mission of Rare Leaders is simple: to inspire you to thrive and grow in your at home, at work, and in your community. And you can leave the title at the door because this is your opportunity to invest in yourself, to grow yourself, to be the best Rare Leader that you can be. So I think, Danielle, you could probably agree on that chances are that we all have some room for improvement in the area of confidence. Would you agree?
Yep, I think so.
Yeah. And the funniest thing is that we get so used to the way we are, we tend to not notice just how bad things have got until we take a step back and seriously look at ourselves. For example, I got COVID 19. It's not 19, it's 19 pounds that I gained since COVID 19. And it's like, oh my gosh, you just don't even realize it. It's like the analogy of the frog in the pot. So, Danielle, I'm not sure if you've heard this story or not about the frog in the pot. You may have just heard about it just recently. But so, for those of you guys who are watching, if you haven't heard of it before, someone wanted to cook a frog. Don't ask me why, just go with it. And the frog was already in the pot, but the person had no lid to keep the frog in. Now, truth of the matter is that, it's sort of like when you get one of those frogs in your culverts by your house, the frog didn't mind the situation. He's like, this isn't too bad. It's a little cooler in here, a little shade going on. And, the water was cool and relaxing. So he stayed where he was. The cook decided the way to keep the frog from hopping out was to turn up the heat gradually. So the frog got used to the hot temperature and degrees. Over time, he kept heating the water until it became hotter and boiled until, well, you can guess the end of the story. The point is, we can tend to get used to we can get used to getting comfortable to uncomfortable things over time, so much that they become normal to us. While you might not be as confident as you once were, your lack of confidence somewhere along the line became the new normal. And it's only really looking back and truly taking an assessment, an honest assessment of where you are now, before you can see what's happened. So that's why we're exploring this question. How do I know if I lost confidence? The warning signs. And as with anything, there are generally signs something is wrong, which might lead you to a particular conclusion. The problem is a single symptom can mean more than one thing. So, Danielle, would you agree, or would you agree that it's important to really look at the group of items as a whole, our life as a whole, and really assessing where we're at with our confidence?
Yeah, I think it's important to just kind of take a look at where you're at, what you're feeling, um, what you've been doing, what you haven't been doing, just to kind of get a complete picture of where you're at. Just because one thing may not be able to single out exactly what the problem may be.
Yeah, it's sort of like when you get that stuffy nose. You may just have a stuffy nose, but in reality, you might have a fever. You might have a thing called, I don't know, I'm not going to say the word. um, So let's look at this list. And I encourage you guys who are watching us live to go and put in the chat box your thoughts as we go along the 5 warning signs. This is part 1 of part 2 of how do you know that I've lost the confidence. So, warning sign number 1. Now, folks, just to let you know, these are some of the things that I've personally experienced myself. Okay, so and I look back over time that not only in experiencing myself, but seeing others experience it too. So that's why we came up with these particular ones. So number 1, you apologize a lot. You're the apologizing Anna. If your name is Anna, I apologize. All right. Why is this a warning sign, Danielle? We start apologizing a lot for everything. Oh, there's a sneeze.
I think once you start apologizing for everything, this can be like a sign like you're just kind of not feeling really
Why
confident
is
in
this
your abilities or
a warning
anything
sign?
like that. Like you're apologizing for your dog barking, you're apologizing for your kid screaming, you're apologizing for hitting somebody with a shopping cart. Like you're just constantly like things happen. And not that you want to run people over with a shopping cart, but I think it's just like every little thing that you're apologizing for, and that you're looking at yourself as inferior to the person that you're apologizing to. So I'm sorry that I'm late. I'm sorry that
Mm,
my phone started ringing. I'm sorry that my messages were going off. I'm sorry. Like everything that you're apologizing for is just adding to that little notch of like, I don't feel like I'm an equal in anything anymore.
mm. That almost goes down to that worthiness question, right? Am I worthy, right?
Mhm.
So here's the second warning sign. You overreact to critics. You know, a confident person can accept criticism, but when you obsess over what someone else has to say, you're showing a lack of confidence in your abilities, especially in those areas where you're being criticized. I know this has happened to me at times where one criticism that someone says to me, I'm thinking about it all day long. What's been your experience with this?
I think when you're with like being overreactive, especially when somebody's like trying to offer you help in an area that you're not necessarily looking for that help, when you don't realize that you need it. And so all of a sudden you're like, why are you attacking me? Like, what did I do? Like, why was this such a big deal? And really it was something simple, just, hey, I noticed this, like just looking to help you. And all of a sudden it's like this big deal and you just continue to stew over it when really it was like they meant well.
When you say that, it reminds me of times when I've heard people call someone, "Oh, they're overly sensitive." You can't say anything around them. You're walking like on eggshells around them. And this goes over to the next warning sign of how you may have lost your confidence. You pull away from social situations. This is also called the wounded avoider. This happens if you're in a professional realm, and and say, for example, sales. You don't talk to your manager. You don't talk to your coworkers. You want to be left alone, but you don't like being, but you feel like you're on an island. And when it when a person's lacking confidence, social gatherings can be a nightmare for those people. So if you're staying at home because you're afraid you won't fit in, thinking no one will talk to you or worrying no one will like you, then you're having confidence in this issues in this area. Here's the next one. You are defensive. So we talked about overreacting to critics. Now about you are defensive. And what does that mean? We become defensive when we can't come up with good reasons to support our position. And this means you're not confident in what you're saying, what you believe. So Danielle, would you mind sharing a situation where you feel like, you know what? Or what's the things that you feel like you do when you are in that defensive mode? Because I know what I do. I just don't want to listen.
To be in the defensive mode, I think really what for me, I start making excuses of why I didn't do something. Um, I had going on. I had this going on, and it's really just the matter of the fact that I didn't do it, and I'm not owning it. And so all of a sudden now, I feel like I have to like defend every action that I made, or like if the house wasn't cleaned, or I didn't get an errand run. Like, well, I had this going on, I had this going on, I had this going on. And really, it may lead back to some of the other situations where I'm just not feeling confident and I'm not leaving the house, or I'm not um, putting myself out around people because I have a mask on, or what, like whatever the situation is. It's just like little things that build up to that, like lack of confidence of who I am to like go do those things. Um, and then just being like defensive and making excuses of why something's not done.
It goes back to the point is that you're not confident in what you're saying or what you believe. You know, I've been in that situation numerous times in my professional career and personal life where because the core of what my problem was lack of confidence, I was getting defensive in all these different areas without realizing, you know what? Literally, my confidence wasn't where it was at. You know, they say there's a difference between arrogance and confidence. Confidence says, if I can do it, you can do it. Arrogance says, if I can do it, you can't do it. And I think that's a fine line to remember when it comes about, assessing where you're at in terms of your confidence. And that goes over to the next warning sign is that you obsess over your problems. Here's some things to think about. You constantly worry about your problems. You have a victim mentality. The focus is on things are how things are going to go wrong versus right. Those things, victim mentality, constant worry about your problems, all show you that you have no confidence that you can control, accept, or eventually change your situation. Why is this an important warning sign to be aware of?
I think this one's tough because you're really in a situation where you feel like you have to be defensive. You're being attacked. Why am I being criticized all the time? Um, and then you start to think negative thoughts about yourself, like, well, maybe I'm just not meant to be XYZ, or maybe like top salesman, or whatever it is in your field. You start to really like just feel sorry for yourself, kind of throwing a pity party, like, why is everybody attacking me? Um, and then thinking, well, like, instead of being solution and resourceful, you start thinking of reasons why it's not going to happen, why you can't do it, and coming up with those excuses again as to why you're not being able to do something.
Mm. You know, uh, you mentioned something you touched on is you start getting into this blame game. The blame game of, you know, of justifying why we aren't doing what we're doing. That's a warning sign that your confidence is down. It's hard to admit that, isn't it?
Mhm.
To say that I am not confident in something right now, oh my gosh, it still bothers me just saying it out loud. But I know there's areas in my life right now that I am not confident in. I am not confident right now getting on a beach. Just letting you guys all know that, putting that out there. And I think part of it comes down to is that we get into that comparison game, and comparison is the thief of joy, or comparison of our old self, or what I used to be. And that's when we start obsessing about our problems. And where focus goes, energy flows. What we focus on expands. So if we're obsessing about our problems, why not take that same energy and turning into solution like a rare leader? We talk about what does it mean to be a leader who's resilient, adaptable, uh, resourceful, engaging. Those are what all letters make up. So if you're obsessing about your problems way too often, you might be have a little hole in your balloon, or your confidence balloon. We're going to add some extra ones on here because we got the extra time here. You lack energy. And for those of you guys who are watching live, what are some other signs, warning signs that you've learned over the years that say that, your confidence may not be at where you want to be? It's tiring when you're constantly stressed and worried. Worry takes work. Um, and do you know what your thought? Like, do you agree, disagree that when you're may not be confident as a whole that you lack energy?
Oh, for sure. I think that a lot of times you tire yourself out because you're constantly thinking about all these things that you're not worthy of, you're not able to do. Like, it actually gets tiring finding excuses to be where you're at. And I know a lot of like it to be self aware of these things happening. Um, Takes practice because it is very hard and you get into such a rut that you don't have the energy. You just want to sleep all the time. You're tired. I can't go do this because I'm so tired. And you create this world that you're living in and it takes a lot of effort for yourself to become self-aware of it to move yourself from that place.
But that's the thing. Like, how do we know if we're there if we don't have some kind of little checklist to measure ourselves up against? Because there's a saying that I used to learn in Dale Carnegie. I know people who are in a rut who are going to stay in the rut because they've decided to stay in that rut.
A lot of
And,
times I think it comes down to what we talked about is setting goals and knowing what you want.
mhm.
And are you allowing yourself to work towards these goals, or are you allowing these little checklist items that we've talked about continue to hold you back?
Mm. Goals become the fuel for our life, right? They give us direction, they give us a sense of purpose. And we did a family project this weekend because we had a purpose behind it. If I don't think we didn't have that purpose behind that family project, if I would have had the energy to push through all day long. I mean, folks, I'm still feeling all the yard work I did this weekend. um, but when you have a purpose and you have a passion, time becomes just a feeling. Because actually, that's what it is, right? It is just a feeling. Another one that you might be warning saying you might be lacking confidence is you don't sleep. Um, People who can't sleep generally have issues turning off the brain. And I realize myself where literally have to, like, when I have stuff in my brain, I've got to write it down. Um, Especially when it comes to a crisis. How many times has that ever happened to you, Nails, where you had something on your mind, it was like battling you, but you weren't confident about your ability to handle what the present crisis was.
I think that came down a lot to creating that story in my head of like how the situation was going to go instead of just addressing it and addressing it and like just seeing what the other half of the story was. It wasn't necessary. It was the story I created in my own head of the conversation back and forth or whatever the situation was, that was keeping me in that mode of worry and not being able to address it.
You touch on something which we were going to probably talk on next week, but we'll talk about it now because we have a little extra time. Is that you play a role? I mean, why is it sometimes you just feel like you just can't be yourself? If you're having to create a persona just to step out into the world, if you're using a fake you to impress people, this means that you're particularly not confident about who you are. Because again, it goes back to your point earlier about the worry thing. It takes work. I mean, I can tell you numerous times in my life when I was not at my best, where I I mean, I was drained by the end of the day. I would crash. I didn't want to talk to no one. When I got off, my 8 to 5 and went home, I was like, I'm done. Stick a fork into me today. Because again, I was creating a persona that wasn't me, that I knew I wasn't as confident at the time. You know, going back to your point, Danielle, about that story in your head. Give us more insights on that as it relates to playing a role.
Playing a role, I think, where you're creating the story in your head is like, I have to be this person for this like situation, and I have to be this person for that situation, and you all of a sudden turn into people pleasing and
Mhm.
saying yes, yes, yes to all that is around you because you don't know your personal mission of who you are and who you want to show up as. So you create this role to please everybody and you get lost in there.
Mm. Tell us more about that. What do you mean by getting lost in that?
I think you get into a rut of like trying to like figure out like, okay, I'm doing this and I'm doing that, I'm doing this, I'm saying yes to that, I'm saying yes to that, I'm saying yes to that. And all of a sudden you're spiraling into a rut of you don't know who you're supposed to be and when,
Mhm.
because you've lost the direction that you're moving in, what your personal goals are, who you like are working to be. I know we did a challenge at the beginning of the year where we really looked at like what's my personal mission? Like who am I that I want to be showing up for everyone? And that would bring so much consistency to your life because you're that person all the time, not who you think everybody needs you to be.
You know, I think what you just said there in terms of being the being the person you think everyone wants you to be, that's a challenge for a lot of people. I think we have the expectations, we place expectations of ourselves, what people believe us to be. And it goes back to the phrase that and you and I've talked about this is that believe in everyone, expect nothing. This way you're never disappointed.
Well, that and it's like if when you're confident with who you are, it doesn't matter if that person likes you or not because you have your set of core values of what you base your life around. And when you're confident in who that is, it doesn't really matter what other people think. They can like you or they can't, and or don't. And it doesn't really matter because you are who you are. And to be confident with who you are is what you need to work towards.
And that's something you have to work at. Confidence is a muscle that if you don't work at building it, it does get weak. It does shrink back. And in review, we've talked about the warning signs today of, how do you know if you've lost confidence? The first one is you apologize to a lot. All the time apologizing. Everything automatically. I'm sorry. Like, here's how it comes across too. I'm sorry, you're right. I'm terrible at this. I'm sorry, you're right. It happens. Second is you overreact to critics. A confident person can accept criticism. It becomes like water off a duck's back. Three, you pull away from social situations. We call this the wounded avoider. Are you pulling away from social situations? Next one is you are defensive. That's a big one. You obsess about your problems. You focus on how things are going to go wrong all the time. You lack energy. Daniil talked about how by having a purpose and goals, it will give you energy. It becomes fuel for you because the why becomes the reason why you do what you do. You don't sleep. And finally, we touched base in part about, you're playing a role. And Daniil talked about that story that we put in our minds. What stories are we making up that we need to simply close the chapter on. Some things to consider here. In our conversation next week, we're going to go into part two of this question of how do you know you lost confidence? And tell you what, when you can go ahead and recognize that and like call it for what it is, I don't know about you, Danielle, but I feel it's empowering. Like sucks to think about, like they call embrace the suck, right? But there's something about being empowered and being that rare leader who is like, you know what? I'm going to be resourceful right now. I'm going to recognize where I'm at and I'm going to adapt. I'm going to be resilient and push through this, and I'm going to engage others to help me out. Do you feel it's empowering as well when you actually can call yourself, call what is?
Oh, definitely. It gives you a chance to like name where you are and move forward so you're not stuck in that same little spot.
Mhm. That little spot gets lonely. It gets lonely. And that's why we have the Rare Leader community. This is an opportunity for everyone to connect, collaborate, and contribute to one another. We're here. Feel free to send us a message. You know, we're in this journey as much as you are in a journey. We're in this together. And the phrase that says iron sharpens iron. Um, you all add value each and every day. And it goes back to the story of that you're a gift. And to recognize, you know what, I'm a gift. And I'm going to go and share that gift and the talents and the gifts I've been given with others to add value to others. So, as we go ahead and close up here today, Danielle, what would you say is some of your final thoughts as it comes down to this question of how do you know that you lost confidence?
I think it's really important to just take a look at where you're at. If you are feeling unhappy, if you're feeling unfulfilled, if you're feeling just like you don't know which direction to turn, you're probably in a spot of where you're lacking confidence. And it might not be in all areas of your life, but it's definitely a sign that somewhere within your life you are not feeling fulfilled. And to be able to take a look at what's contributing to that.
Yeah. Dig it. And there's a lot of great books you can go ahead and check out in regards to that. I think Danielle, you read one a couple months ago. What was the name of that book again?
I don't know which one.
The one, how not to or to how to F yourself.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good read. The Extraordinary Mind is another good read. And also the book How to Stop Worrying and How to Start Living by Dale Carnegie. And I'm going to finish up with this quote here today is that confidence is like show up in every single moment like you're meant to be there. Think about it. Think about it. Until next time, I'm here again with Danielle Jalen every Tuesday, 12:01 p.m. to 12:31 p.m. We're joining you for rare conversation. If there's a topic that you want to discuss when it comes down to mindset, leadership, relationships, please shoot us a message. We want your input. We may not have the answers, but we can also find someone to also join us to provide those answers to you. Until next time, onward and upwards.
I'll
Talk to
see
you
you
guys soon.
later.